Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where you'll hear stories about people who get mistaken as employees when they aren't. And I have no idea how it keeps happening, but it does. Guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. And if not, these stories will surely brighten up that day. Maybe. Just maybe. I hope you enjoy the stories today, and do remember to hit that subscribe button for future tales. We're diving in. I live in a small town in the Great Lakes region where the quality of people has been going down since we moved here, over a decade ago. So I figured something like this was inevitable, but I'm still surprised it happened to me as it's next level stupid. Now, since it's a smaller town, there's a good chance you'll see the same person every so often. So I was at Walmart getting propane. As I was finishing paying for it, a lady, Karen, comes up to me and says, "Hey, I know you from the store that I work at. And since you work there, could you run out there and get me some things?" I tell her, "I'm sorry, but I don't drive yet, and our store does not do deliveries anyway." Also, this is while Karen interrupts me and says, "I have no time to run out. I need you to get my groceries." Now, at this point, I'm not sure how to properly respond. I told her, "Ma'am, I don't mean to be rude, but I'm not your personal grocery runner." And I should have started with something else because Karen says, "Listen, I'll give you money. It's not like I'm asking you to do it for free. Just go there, grab the groceries, use your employee discount, and you're done." I then loudly shouted, "No." Karen then says, "Do it, or I'm calling the police." So at this point, the employee overhears Karen and realizes that the two of us look nothing alike, and I'm assuming he knows at this point what's going on, as if he's dealt with it before. He says, "Miss, please back off before I involve management. This is the second time this week." Karen snaps her head into his direction like a banshee and says, "Tell him to go get my groceries." Now, hold on. First off, she knows me from a different store, and now she's yelling at a Walmart employee to make me go to that store and get her groceries. I tell her, "Ma'am, you are literally at a grocery store right now. Can you please stop causing a scene? You're making me really uncomfortable." Karen says, "No, this place has bad service anyways. You know what? I'm speaking to the manager and getting both of you fired." Now at this point, the employee and I exchanged the most flabbergasted faces. He says, "He doesn't work here, miss. I don't know what you're going on about, but..." Then out of nowhere, she just huffs and walks off screaming profanities at us. The employee and I continue to stand with our jaws hanging. Like, sure, this town sucks, but this lady's a vacuum. Since I have my groceries paid for and in a bag, I speed walk to the car and my dad comes by a minute later, and we get in and leave. I don't want the confrontation to escalate any further, but I hope nothing bad happened after I left. So here's where things get crazy. I spot Karen a few days later at work from the other end of the building, and she looked like she was hunting me down. I slip out and tell a manager about the previous confrontation with her, and they say I can help out in the back room until she leaves. Later, I hear Karen finds our management and begins screaming nonsense at them, telling them to fire me because I'm a terrible person and probably an even worse employee. She eventually got physical and started to push them, at which point was arrested and banned. Management was reluctant to believe me about her at first because you'd have to be a little crazy to do what she did. But after that, they had no problem believing me. And no, nobody in the story was injured, and I don't scar easy, but this stuck well in my head. I don't retell it much, but it's a fun story to tell in large groups to get a wider reaction. Guys, so scrolling through the comments, a lot of people have mentioned that she might have had some sort of mental illness going on, as this has happened more than once. Either that, or the entitlement of this woman is next level. Tell me what you guys think. I, like so many that have passed through the sub, have never fully believed these stories. Seriously, people can't be that dense. Even as a police officer, I can't recall in my 7 years as a sworn officer ever coming across some people that are as dense as some of these stories. Well, today disabused me of some of that notion. So, for a little background, I'm a USMC vet and a police officer. Also, I'm currently on admin duty because I tore my quad when I failed to properly jump a fence during a foot chase, so I'm walking with a cane currently. Now, I had just gotten off my duty shift and decided that since the weather's gonna be nice over the weekend, I'm gonna get a couple of steaks, some corn, and just some stuff for a cookout with a couple of my buddies. So I'm looking at the steaks, comparing a few cuts before I put one back, when I hear the mating call of a wild Karen. Now, this is a sound that I'm familiar with, but seriously, she can't think that I work here. I'm in a plain, logoless white polo shirt, tucked into my uniform pants and my black boots. The workers here wear black button-up shirts, khaki pants, and a green apron with the store name on it. Managers tend to wear black pants but still have the apron, but with the word manager on the name tag. Sure enough, this call was for me, and since I ignored her, I had earned an even more stern throat clearing. And then a shrill, "Excuse me." Now, I'm an ass, but I also think that I'm hilarious, and this is a horrible combination when facing a Karen. I call back to her without looking and said, "Absolutely, you're excused. The bathroom is that way," with a gesture towards the sign for the restrooms. I then added, "And I'm sure they'll have something in the pharmacy if you need more than that." Karen then says, "Hey, that's no way to speak to a customer. You didn't even ask what I needed." Now, me, interrupting her, said, "Look, I don't care. I'm not an employee here. I have no duty to help you. I do not look anything like a staff member here. If there's nothing else, I will be returning to my shopping." Now, yeah, I know I was rude, but I'm not gonna make excuses for it. I have very little patience for these entitled morons. Karen, in a full banshee shriek, said, "I want your manager. I interrupt her again, going into full knife-handling NCO Marine and say, "Shut your mouth. I'm a customer. I don't work here. Stop harassing me." Now, the problem with going full devil dog when in public is that the general public is not accustomed to the volume level a good yell from a diaphragm can produce. Also, the tone of voice is very hostile. And the even bigger problem with going full devil dog is that when you're using a cane to keep you standing, it becomes very easy for you to be toppled. And this is exactly what Karen did. Fair play, Karen. Fair play. Karen kicks my cane out from under my hand, and I was too far forward to recover and went down like a sack of potatoes. She then started hitting me with her purse and yelling about me assaulting her and needing the police. Now, I do want to note that I've been hit harder by pillows wielded by my 6-year-old niece. I don't know if it was 2 minutes or 30 seconds, but it wasn't that long. It just felt like it because I was a bit embarrassed about how easily I went down and how much it hurt my leg. But at this point, the manager comes over and gets Karen off of me and helps me up. The whole time, Karen is still screaming until she remembered that she had her own phone. She then calls 911, screaming things at me like, "I'm gonna call the police. You're in trouble now." Now, the manager looked at me just as confused as I was, and I just shrugged. He asked, "Do you know what's going on?" I told him, yeah, she tried to get my attention, I made a remark, she told me to get the manager, I dressed her down, and as I was in the middle of unloading on her, she kicked my cane, and then I went down. You saw the rest. It was at this point when Karen screams, "Liar! You felt me up, and that's when I pushed you off of me. You then hit me with that stick, and if it wasn't for the fact that I hit you with my purse, I would be dead." At this time, I'm pretty sure the dispatcher had said something to her, as she said into the phone, "Yeah, he's about 6 foot. Yep, a large white man, in a white polo and black pants with boots. Yeah, we're at the store. Yes, I think I'm safe. The manager's here, but he seems to know my attacker. I think he wants to hurt me too." The manager and I exchanged looks before the manager asked me, "Well, it appears she called the police. Can I ask you to wait in the store?" With a nod, I told him, "Sure, I'll wait." It was only a couple of minutes before my buddy cop comes walking up and asks me what's happening here, as they got a call about a sexual assault. Now, the fact that I was addressed before Karen sent her into orbit. I could see my buddy cop's eyes just glaze over, and since I'd trained her when she joined the force, I knew this meant she's already tuned Karen out. I just looked at her and said, "Take her statement. This is the manager on duty, then review the security footage." Karen being Karen starts with, "We don't need the security footage. This man sexually assaulted me. Arrest him." And she also threw this gem out. She says, "You're a woman. You know him. You must know what type of man he is. You can be honest. He's probably assaulted you too." My buddy cop looks over to the manager and says, "I think it would help more if I were to see that footage first." It was at this point where the partner tells the Karen that we both are supposed to stay with him, while my buddy cop goes with the manager. Apparently, not only did the security camera catch everything in 1080p, but it also had audio. Buddy cop returned about 5 minutes later. She looked at her partner and then pointed to Karen and said, "Arrest her for assault and making a false report." Buddy cop then gets into Karen's face and said, "I've had that happen to me in the past. It's people like you that make false claims that make it so hard for us actual victims to get the help we need." And that was really the end of it. The manager helped me get the rest of my things for the grill out, and I got a nice 25% off coupon. What a psycho and dangerous Karen. Literally going from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye. Seriously, she went from wanting help with something to attacking someone and then falsely accusing them of a horrific act. So as a celebration to being fully vaccinated, myself and my family decided that we were going to go away for a week to go whale watching. Such a trip needs supplies, so my family heads to the Market of Walls to get groceries and such. So to start, what we were wearing. My mother was wearing a blue dress, with short sleeves with white flowers design and beige khakis. Oh yeah, and she also has a service dog too, vest and all. My father was wearing a gray button-up shirt and black pants. Finally, I was wearing blue jeans and a green shirt that read, "I'd make Zelda a pun, but I don't want to try and force it." Service dog, who I'll shorten to Doggo, was wearing his service vest. When we entered the Market of Walls, my mother and father went one way, and I went the other way. I was to get things like sunscreen, and my parents got the food and snacks. As such, this part is second-hand from my parents, but I'll embellish with the classic Karen tropes. They were in the frozen food aisle, picking up some burgers and sausages for the grill, when they heard the classical, "Excuse me," when choosing between matzo burgers and barbecue sauce burgers. They had just ignored it, but my mother felt Doggo tugging at the leash, trying to get her attention. My mom turned around and saw the Karen for the story. She was clearly confused by the blue dress, and began asking my mom where something was in the aisles. Obviously, my mother said she didn't work there, and this set Karen off. My father heard the conflict and approached them, but the gray button-up shirt made Karen think that he was a manager. Now, I wish I could explain more, but as I said, this was second-hand. At this point, Karen must have stepped on Doggo's tail, because as I was heading back to find my parents, I heard poor Doggo yelp loudly, which is out of character for him, and I took off running. I arrived to the scene with my mother trying to comfort Doggo, his tail slightly red from blood, and my mother tending to it. My father was yelling at Karen, and an employee wearing a blue shirt, black pants, and an apron comes up. The employee is trying to figure out what's going on, and Karen is going on about how disrespectful my mother and the manager are being. The employee's trying to explain the whole concept of us being customers, but Karen was not listening. I took the employee aside and asked him to get the real manager, and approached Karen. Now, I should note that I run role-playing games, and through that, I've learned how to improvise. I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" Karen looks to me and says, "Who are you?" I told her I'm the manager. "What are you doing here?" My father gave me a confused look and went to say something, but I stopped him. Karen looks me over, my cheesy t-shirt and all, and scoffed, "You are not the manager, you're just some kid." I then said, "Okay, then what about my parents is telling you that they work here?" Karen stopped and looked at my parents, and you can see the gears turning in her head. My father saw that I had things under control, and he went to go help my mother, who doesn't work well under stress. I said to her, "Okay, now that you're listening, what happened to my dog?" Karen stuttered and said, "I don't know." I told her that better be true. Doggo is a trained service dog, and it's a felony to assault service dogs. So I want to know what happened. Karen then tries to walk off, and I said, "No, you are staying right here until the manager gets here. My dog is hurt, and I want to know why." Eventually, the manager arrives along with a pair of police officers who must have been called by someone. Karen tried to defend herself weakly, but all the breeze she had in her sails against my parents were gone. The manager came back and confirmed that Karen stomped on Doggo's tail when Doggo got between my mom and Karen. The manager explained what he saw on camera. On the video, Doggo went to sit down between mom and Karen to stand his ground and to protect mom, but he wraps his tail to the side to keep it out of the way, and Karen, in a fit of rage, stomped her feet, and then he saw Doggo yelping. Now, I saw red, but let my parents take care of things. They pressed charges on Karen, and the manager comped our groceries, telling us that he apologizes and that he should have banned her earlier. When we got back to the van, I started to cry. Seeing Doggo hurt, my mother crying, and my dad about to deck Karen, I totally snapped and was actually scared of what I'd do. If Karen didn't stand down, I was a bit afraid of what I might have done. Luckily, it didn't come down to that. Mom is staying home with Doggo today while myself and my dad do some running around. She's still shaken up, and we would rather not add more stress to her. Court is hopefully going to be after the whale watching trip, but I haven't heard anything about it. Okay guys, so first of all, before I say anything else, OP's shirt is friggin' amazing. I absolutely love that Zelda pun. Second of all, good on OP for standing up for your parents. And third, I hope that Karen gets locked up for pretty much assaulting a service dog. I learned from reading a story a few weeks back that assaulting a service dog is a felony and can result in some serious jail time. With that said, OP does have updates, and here they are. OP says, Doggo is physically going to be okay. The vet said the scrape, as he described it, is shallow and should heal. Unfortunately, he'll be committed to the cone of bravery while not on duty, until it heals to make sure it doesn't get worse. As for Karen, she's charged with the interference of a service animal, willful injury of a service animal, assault, destruction of property, and disrupting the peace, and more. she's facing upwards to 5 years in prison. Minimum. Nothing official has been decided yet, however. And my friends, the most important update is right here. OP shows a picture of this beautiful service dog. Listen guys, it truly does break my heart to see that this dog tried to get between the psycho Karen and the mom to protect the mom and ended up getting hurt. I really do hope something comes out of that and justice is served. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /IDontWorkHereLady. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the stories today, and if you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. If you missed yesterday's episode, I will link it right here. A smug Karen demands free samples at a store, and it goes terribly, terribly wrong. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I love you.